Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
Now, does the acronym MSM mean anything to you? I'll give you a clue. According to those who use it, the term is part of what we are, as are most of the journalists covering this conference. MSM stands for mainstream media. It's popular on the left and the right, but some on the left say the MSM is to blame for the difficulty the left have in getting its message over. So Jeremy Corbyn and his supporters have been trying to bypass the mainstream media, the I can't even say it, the MSM, and talk directly to the public. Like this YouTube film, it's about Jeremy Corbyn, and it was directed by the famous director Ken Loach.
I don't require every young person to go to university any more than I require every young person to get a good quality apprenticeship. But I do require a society that gives every young person an opportunity to get an apprenticeship or go to university, so that the opportunity is there and not be saddled with a debt at the end of it. What we've done is turned education into a commodity for under 5s and a commodity for over 18s. We've had 30 years of being told that neoliberal economics is the only answer to everything. No, it doesn't.
From Ken Loach's, it's an hour-long film and it's available on YouTube with Mr. Corbyn talking to these people. I've been joined by the director of the centrist Labour group Progress, Richard Angel, and by Momentum activist Bhaskar Sunkara, who founded the Jacobin magazine, which offers socialist perspectives on politics, economics and culture. That's quite a mouthful too. It's an online magazine.
No, we're in print.
You're in print?
Yeah, we have 20,000 subscribers. Yes.
20,000
yep.
subscribers, okay. Is it the mainstream media that isn't giving Mr. Corbyn a fair crack of the whip? Or is it Labour's constant divisions and arguments that are undermining it?
Well, it could be both, right? If you're under constant attack from your own party, then it's very difficult to actually develop the message discipline and to figure out what points you should be consistently hammering across the mainstream media. But at the same time, the media can also create a hostile environment for pushing those ideas forward to begin with. That doesn't mean that certain ideas can't get across. That doesn't mean that the left should just avoid the terrain of the mainstream media.
Oh, you don't? You still think you should engage?
I mean, I consider myself a member of the pre-mainstream media. That's the entire point of why I do politics.
The
pre-mainstream media.
What's that?
I hope to one day be a member of the mainstream media with my publication. I hope my ideas will one day be mainstream. And I'll continue. That's the point. If not, then I would just be sitting at home.
Fair enough. Does the mainstream media treat Mr. Corbyn's Labour Party badly?
I don't think it does. I think it does its job, which is to shine a light on what's happening inside a very powerful organisation that we're all hoping and the country expect to be the opposition and to be the alternative government. And it deserves a lot of scrutiny. And when there's so many mistakes come directly from the leader's office, it's not surprising that there are key insights, and that makes news in the country. And then, of course, actively divisive things are done by the leadership, which they know their MPs are going to dissent on. And, of course, the dissent is interesting to the public.
And covered by the media.
Yes, covered by the media.
What do you say to that?
I mean, the Labour Party is obviously a party in transition now. I'm based in the United States. I wouldn't even define myself as a Momentum activist so much as an ally, occasionally visiting here. But when you have a party in such great transition, when you have so many new members, when you have people just engaging in these debates for the first time, a lot of people inspired by Corbyn for the first time, of course you're going to have different messages, you're going to have debates and contestation. That's just politics to me. It doesn't seem like anything particularly unusual. So the fact that the media is playing up these divisions, I mean, I think that's also potentially fair. But to me, the fact that there's not a unified voice coming out of the Labour Party is just a natural part of a party in transition.
Because it's going through a certain change.
Absolutely.
But what you've also got is people kind of getting their excuses in first. And like you saw in the Trump-Hillary Clinton debate, is they kind of played the ref and blamed the mediator of the debate for the reason why Trump didn't win, rather than have to deal with the reason why Trump didn't win. And it seems to me that people who know that Corbyn's ideas won't go down well with the public have got the blame in earlier, that the reason why they're not going down is because the mainstream media are hostile. Whereas the mainstream media, it seems to me, are doing their job. I think you gave me a hard time when I was on your programme last. That's your job, and you do it equally to the Labour Party, the Conservatives, or the groups within, and that's the point.
But, you know, a Labour leader always faces the hostility of what we used to call the Tory press, and although it's not as powerful as it was before, there is still an identifiable, quote, Tory press. And a Labour leader like Mr Corbyn gets it in the neck even more than others, though Ed Miliband, Neil Kinnock will tell you they got it pretty badly as well. But if you say, well, they're just behaving to type, but what about the non-Tory press part of the mainstream media? Is that treating Mr Corbyn fairly?
Well, I think it treats him normally. So, I mean, lots of complaints about The Guardian being unfair. When I read The Guardian, I think it's a pretty pro-Corbyn editorial line at the moment. But the amount of mistakes that they have made is obviously newsworthy, and they cover that as news. And that's something that you just have to kind of put up with. I think the public, crucially, see politicians who complain about the media as silly, like sailors complaining about the sea.
You know, Powell said that.
I think that is his quote. But for Labour, it's always been more difficult. So we go into that territory knowing, you know, we are the change makers. We've got big ideas. It's always going to be harder to break the status quo. And you just have to accept that, because otherwise it looks quite ugly, I think, to the public.
In the United States, perhaps not planned, but it happened in reality, the mainstream media turned out to be Donald Trump's biggest ally, because they kept on putting them on, even what are regarded as sort of small L liberal networks like NBC, ABC, MSNBC, and so on, putting Fox in another corner on that. But he was good for ratings, so they gave him a ton of time on air to get his message across, wherever it was, and actually he didn't have to spend money on TV commercials. In a sense, for that insurgent, the mainstream media was an ally.
In a certain sense, yes. And Donald Trump deserved that mainstream media attention because he was compelling and because people were voting for him. I think his politics are abhorrent,
I understand.
But I think he deserved that attention. For me, one of the problems was Bernie Sanders and other candidates weren't getting that attention, even though they had similar levels of polling. So I think there should be some criteria about, and it should be rooted, I think, in how much support a politician has, how much grassroots energy they have. So obviously Corbyn deserves attention, whether you agree with him or disagree with him in the same way Trump does.
Should Mr. Corbyn engage more with the mainstream media?
I think every politician needs to engage with the mainstream media. I think it's important. I think especially, I haven't seen Corbyn shy away from hostile interviews. I haven't seen him shy away from the mainstream media. I think there's a certain narrative that says that Jeremy Corbyn and his supporters only care about social media. They don't care about the mainstream media. I think they're just trying to reach people in whatever way they can.
Should he engage more?
Of course. He cancelled his media tour yesterday, I believe, yesterday morning, the same as he did this time last year, and it's a real problem. But I think the point that you were just saying is, how thankful are we that we've got the BBC, who do have the bias and have to have balance on their programmes, and they have people of Corbyn supporters and not Corbyn supporters, Labour and Tory, and they balance those things out. If we had an American-style media, where it's all Fox News, it's all about ratings every minute of every day, and the shock politics is the only way to get on the media.
Of course, under our laws, it's not just the BBC. ITV is regarded in that regard as a public service broadcast, so is Sky.
And Channel 4 and others.
In America now, you seem just to talk to the converted.
Well, I would say that I feel odd as a socialist making a nationalist argument here, but the American print media, I think, is quite a bit more unbiased and objective, and featuring, there's certain tabloid stories that come out about Corbyn that's absolutely shocking and unsubstantiated, and that wouldn't fly in the American media. And Sanders did not get that treatment. No. Neither those of us on the left. We had access to a lot of those outlets.
There, but I thank you both for discussing that. It's always good to talk about the mainstream media on the mainstream media. Let's go back to Jo in London. She's very mainstream.
Yeah, let's talk about ourselves. Now, he's inspired colouring books, poetry and even a play. And now Jeremy Corbyn has prompted the publication of a new book of jokes. Here it is. It's the Little Red Book of Corbyn Jokes, and we'll be talking to the man behind it in just a moment. First, though, we asked Adam to test the jokes out on the streets of Liverpool.
So I've got this book of jokes about Jeremy Corbyn. Can I read one to you?
Yeah, go on.
What's long and rigid and gets you up in the morning?
I don't know.
The Morning Star newspaper's editorial.
Oh, I don't get it.
Do you not read the Morning Star?
No.
Hello, can I tell you a joke?
You can go for it.
How many of the commentariats does it take to change a light bulb?
I don't even understand your accent, but again.
Oh. My wife went out drinking with Fidel Castro's wife. Tequila? No, you're thinking of the CIA.
It's a pretty good one, to be fair.
Wow, that's a good response. That's the best response we've had. Thank you very much. Thank you. What starts with a screw up, takes 9 months, and ends with a load of kicking and screaming?
No idea.
Electing a Labour leader. At least you're still smiling, I suppose. What did the Irishman say when he walked into the bar? That's entirely a matter for the Irish and needs no input from former colonialists.
Well, I'd say bottoms up.
What would happen if James Bond took Viagra? He would continue being a state-sponsored terrorist whose actions disgrace us all. My wife's gone to Indonesia. Jakarta? I strongly resent the implication of patriarchal behaviour contained in your reply.
So bad. So bad.
Knock knock.
Who's there?
Boo.
Ooh.
Laura Kuenssberg.
Laura, who?
What's black and white and red all over?
A newspaper.
The Tory press after it's been nationalised.
Oh, that's
No?
a good one. No.
Yeah? No? What did the socialist pigeons say to the neoliberal pigeons? This is a Blairite coup.
These are terrible. Whose book is this?
Jason Sinclair and John Rain.
I think it's the way you tell them, Adam. Anyway, I've been joined in the studio by the man who dreamt up the Little Red Book of Corbyn jokes, Jason Sinclair, and by the comedian Gráinne Maguire, who supports Jeremy Corbyn. Welcome to both of you. You were laughing all the way through She liked all your jokes.
Well, that's good.
How difficult was it to put it together, to find enough jokes to fill this Little Red Book?
Well, we tend to write a joke when either something catastrophic happens in the Labour Party, so...
What are you trying to say?
Well, it can sometimes
You
be
had a
every
flood
couple
of
of hours.
material,
Yeah, there was a lot of material
What's
to go
your
through.
all-time favourite Jeremy Corbyn joke?
Oh, gosh, I don't know. I mean, one of the quick, easy ones is why did the chicken cross the road?
Why did the chicken cross the road?
Neoliberalism.
Do you find those jokes genuinely funny, or are you laughing out of sympathy?
I love it. Corbyn jokes is one of my... It gives me life. I just love them so much. It's so... Because it's so accurate. And I just think it's so important. The left gets accused of, like, being sanctimonious, taking themselves too seriously. I think it's really important that you poke fun of that and we're aware of it and we can laugh at ourselves.
Right.
It's so funny.
Ah, and so have you got one of these books?
No, but fingers crossed today I'm going to get one.
Depending on what Gráinne says.
Yeah.
What about any topical jokes from the conference?
Well, it was... I'm not saying my mother-in-law hates me, but because that's not what Seamus wrote on the auto cue. So
that was topical, following on from Clive Lewis.
Can we do some sort of interaction? Knock knock.
Who's there?
Owen Smith.
Owen Smith who?
Exactly.
No, you see, you didn't laugh there. You obviously thought that was sad. Is that a bit cruel?
Well, there's a certain cruelty to humour, isn't there?
Well, what is it about Jeremy Corbyn, though, that lends him to a book on jokes, or to humour at all?
It's because he comes across as so humorless and earnest. So, therefore, it's interesting, it's funny to see what it could be like if he was telling a joke. How would you think that Jeremy Corbyn would be if he told a joke? Would he be as good as your reporter?
Well, I don't know. The bar's low there with Adam Fleming. I think it was the delivery that slightly ruined it. Gráinne, do you agree with that about Jeremy Corbyn?
I don't think he's humorless. I think he just comes across as just so earnest and so, like, well-intentioned that he would try to be funny, but he would just end up with a lot of facts about the Irish potato famine. I think that's what...
The Irish potato. Yeah. But you're a Corbyn supporter.
I do. I do support Jeremy and the Labour Party in all its wonderful facets. But, like, I do stand-up comedy and you know, it's important to poke fun at Jeremy.
And do you poke fun? I mean, is he a good source of material?
Yeah, I just think it's so funny that they say that he's got a problem with women, yet he's been married 3 times and his ex-girlfriend is in the shadow cabinet. If anything, he gets on too well with women, if you ask me.
Yes, you could look at it from that perspective. Others might disagree.
Yeah, well, did his ex-wife vote for him? I mean, I don't know if anyone's ex-wife would vote for them, to be fair, if they were I'm surprised she voted once for him, didn't they? But she...
Well, she did an interview, didn't she, just before the result this time, saying she wasn't supporting this,
yes,
you quite rightly said. What's the response been to this book?
Mixed, I think, on
Very diplomatic, yeah.
The Labour Party mixed on
well, it's
divided?
If you look at the Amazon page, there's, I think, 12 5-star reviews and 12 1-star reviews, so that sort of is a nice reflection of the Labour Party today.
Party's got the similar...
Yeah, exactly.
On Amazon as well.
Really? What about Corbyn now with his renewed mandate? Are there jokes now that you will be able to make? He's leader for the second time round, or following the second leadership contest. What will you do?
Well, I just think Labour itself is like a very dysfunctional, crazy family with lots of very strong personalities. Like, personally, I love sort of the newer intake who are more to the right of the party, who, whenever there's a disaster, are so happy to give interviews being like, oh, we're obviously more in sadness than in anger, but like, where's my light? Where's my light? I find those people really, really funny.
Well, the one thing I must say before I let you go is that one Amazon review of your book says, this is not raisins. Just a head up to anyone else assuming from the image that this is a box of sun-made raisins. You remember the boxes of sun-made raisins? They're still around. So don't find out the hard way like I had to. How do you respond to that?
Well, that's true. It's not as tasty as raisins, but it might be funnier.
How many jokes are in here, by the way, altogether?
There's...
it's quite big writing. You haven't got many jokes on a page, have you?
There's jokes, but there's long jokes as well, and introductory essays and sort of parodies and pastiches as well. It's not just the jokes from the Twitter account.
All right. Well,
so,
I can't think of one to say at the end of our section here, but thank you both very much for coming on to the programme.